Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So it's 5 more days till we get to see one of the most important fights of this year in the sport of boxing. I believe this fight, along with Canelo versus Austin Trout, I believe those two fights are the most important fights of the year. If somebody would have told me a year ago that Canelo would be fighting Austin Trout and Donaire would be fighting against Guillermo Rigondeaux within 2 weeks from each other, I would have never believed it. I would have never believed it. I mean, this is a die-hard boxing fan's dream right here. Now, and it's not a Donaire or Canelo fan's dream. It's not at all. I'm gonna tell you right now. They don't want to admit it, but the Canelo fans and the Donaire fans, they are nervous as all get out right now. Oh, they are very nervous. They are very, very nervous. That's why this fight is so important. You know, starting with the Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Donaire fight. The reason why this fight is so important is because you have, let's take Donaire for example. Now Donaire, he's in a position right now where he can get rid of that reputation of being this overrated fighter who constantly gets hit and barely wins fights that he should have won by shutout, like the fights with, Rafael Vasquez, a split decision, which now that I think about it, if he didn't knock Vasquez down, Vasquez may have actually won that fight. So, basically, this is a situation right here where Donaire, he can right his wrong. He can prove that he's not an overrated fighter that was blown up by HBO, just trying to make a brand new Manny Pacquiao out of a weak substance. He can make up for that, and he can show that he is the real deal. He can show that he is a true champion. He's a true pound-for-pound champion, right? And on the other hand, you got Rigo. Rigo, he can show that he's not just some glorified Olympian champion who was great at the Olympics, but will be, another Cuban dud as the pros, right? As a professional fighter. He can take, he can eliminate that reputation that a lot of the Cuban fighters have of being great, being great amateurs and going to the pros and getting demolished, right? He can end that. He can end those talks with a performance this Saturday, right? Since I've made my prediction of Rigo versus Donaire, my outlook has changed just slightly after watching, the countdown, whatever you call it, to Donaire versus Rigo. After listening to some more post-fight interview, not post-fight, but after listening to more interviews, my outlook has changed just slightly of what I think is going to happen this Saturday. I'm starting to think when I hear Donaire's interviews, even though they contradict what he says on websites, he did an interview with Max Kellerman on, it was another fight that was going on, and he was there, and he did an interview talking about Rigo. And what I found interesting in that interview is the interview was only about 2 minutes long. And within that 2 minutes, Donaire must have said it about 3 or 4 times talking about Rigo's power. He kept saying it over and over. Well, Rigo's a very good fighter. He's intelligent. He has a lot of power. Rigo, he has a lot of power. Rigo's a good fighter. Oh, did I mention he has a lot of power? With him saying that over and over, it kind of gave me the impression that Donaire, he really, really respects Rigo a whole lot. I mean, I've already told you guys I thought he respected Rigo a lot before. When you put one and one together, you put you put all these interviews with Donaire talking about how much power Rigo has, and then you add in the fact that Donaire had said before the Rigo fight that he had basically said, I take the drug test, and the difference between me and other people who demand drug testing is I don't ask my opponents to take the test, right? Donaire said this. And the fact that Donaire has actually started to double talk, and now he's actually contradicting himself. Now he demands that Rigo, and only Rigo, take this test. It suggests that he respects Rigo's punching power a lot. And man, I mean a lot, right? So, I'm starting to actually think that this fight can actually play out. And this is just, one of the many scenarios that can take place. But I'm really starting to think, I wouldn't be surprised if Donaire goes in this fight and he pulls a De La Hoya versus Tito Trinidad. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Donaire goes in there and he gets on his bicycle and he starts moving like there's no fucking tomorrow. He starts jogging in the ring. Hit and move, hit and move, hit and move. And I know some people are sitting here saying, man, you are fucking crazy. There's no way Rigo would do some shit like that. I'm sorry. There's no way Donaire would do some shit like that. And since I just did that little slip up, I want to say my apologies, because the last video I did, I got the names mixed up a couple of times. So, I apologize for that. But anyway, I would not be surprised if Donaire goes in there and he gets on his bicycle. Because as far as I'm concerned, believe it or not, I think that would be one of Donaire's best chances to win this fight, is to get on his bicycle and continue to move, continue to move, continue to move. Because, when I watched the Rigo versus Cordoba fight, I had never really watched that whole fight, but I watched the majority of it the other day. And, I noticed that Rigo having to chase his opponent, it left him more vulnerable to being hit with counter shots. We all know that Rigo likes to counter, but when you have to chase a guy who's running around the ring, then, you have to worry about counters that are coming back towards you, right? So, I personally believe that Rigo would have I personally believe that Donaire would have a better chance beating Rigo and beating him decisively. And I mean by winning rounds, etc., etc. He may have a better chance of beating Rigo if he, if he uses a strategy like that, right? Because if Donaire goes in there and he fights Rigo the way he fought Navarez, Mathabula, Vasquez, I truly believe that Donaire's chances will be slim and none that he wins this fight. Slim and none. I don't see it. He would have to have a far better strategy than the ones that he's been implementing before. It didn't work with any of those fighters. And just to look at the hypocrisy that we continue to deal with in this sport, have you guys ever thought of, imagine if Floyd Mayweather, let's just say Floyd Mayweather, like how people are trying to criticize Floyd Mayweather for fighting Robert Guerrero. I mean, it's just a small percentage of people. But for those small percentage of people who criticize Floyd, imagine if Floyd Mayweather did the same thing Donaire did, and Floyd was fighting against Wilfredo Vasquez right after Vasquez just got knocked out by who? Jorge Arce. Could you imagine what people would be saying about Floyd Mayweather if he said, oh yeah, by the way, my next opponent is Wilfredo Vasquez? Can you imagine the type of backlash that he would get? They would be sitting there saying, man, Floyd Mayweather is hand-picking, cherry-picking these easy, weak opponents, because the perception would automatically be Floyd Mayweather would destroy this Vasquez guy, a flat-footed guy who doesn't really box, who doesn't have the best defense. You know, we know he could be knocked down because he was already hurt by Arce. And Floyd Mayweather, you're going to fight this chump, right? This is what you would have got if Floyd Mayweather was fighting someone like that. People would have expected Floyd to beat this bum exceptionally easy, right? But Donaire goes in there, he fights this guy, and it's a split decision. Tooth and nail how the fight went, right? Tooth and nail. What made it even worse is, like I said, Vasquez is not a boxer, and there were spurts in that fight where Vasquez was outboxing the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire. And you guys are going to sit here and tell me that Donaire is a better boxer than Rigo? That Donaire is smarter than Rigo? Come on, man. I mean, we got to be real about this, guys. We have to be real. I mean, like I said, man, you know, don't get me wrong. Donaire is a good-ass fighter. He is flashy. He is a good fighter. You know, he has some good weapons. But he's going to have to be disciplined as all get out to get in there and outmaneuver, outthink, you know, the chess king, Mr. Rigondeaux. Excuse me, right? I mean, one thing I will say that should be a good weapon when it comes to Donaire against Rigo is I think, you know, Donaire, he has a very good lead right hand as well. He put on display a lot against, I think, of course, Navarez. He has a good lead right hand, and we all know a lead left hook or a lead right hand is a good weapon against a southpaw. So I could see Donaire trying to land that lead right hand all night. How successful he's going to be with it, I don't know. We were going to have to see. And by the way, man, I meant to bring it up when I was talking about Donaire's interviews. But these recent interviews you hear him making, talking to the media, telling them that, oh, Rigo, he's easier than Montiel was, easier than Mares would have been. That's just pure rhetoric. Him trying to get underneath Rigo's skin and try to, you know, psychologically punk Rigo, which I really don't think that it's going to work. I don't think it's going to affect the way Rigo fights. Rigo is way too composed and relaxed to, you know, to let mind games, you know, fuck with him. I mean, you don't fight 400 amateurs, you know, and get worried about, you know, some shit someone's saying on the internet, right? So, anyway, guys, I just wanted to give out some more thoughts of, you know, this terrific matchup. And like I said, 5 more days, I'm going to be counting it down. You know, I'm really going to enjoy myself this weekend no matter who wins this fight. So that's all I got on this one, guys. I'm on to the next one.